Hello students and welcome to the next lesson of the Python 0 to Hero series. So till now we have seen how to take input from the user, how to store that data inside a variable, how to perform some basic operations on that data, and how to display the messages on the output screen. If you have not yet watched any of these videos, I would suggest you to go back, watch those videos and then come back to follow this tutorial. So when we take input from the user, that data can be in any form. It can be a number, a negative number, a positive number, a decimal number, a text data, image, a sequence of data, and many more. So this is what we are going to discuss in this video, that is on data types. Now, what happens in other programming languages is that whenever we start working with any variable and data, we need to tell the compiler in advance that what sort of data is being stored inside the variable. For example, if there is a variable 1, we need to tell the compiler that the variable 1 is going to store some number. Variable 2 is going to store some string, that is text data. While Python is much more flexible. In Python, you just need to assign the data into a variable and it automatically understands what sort of data is being stored. So let's get more hands-on and knowledge into various data types supported by Python using our Collab notebook. So the data can be classified into various categories. Like first category is primary data types, which consist of numeric, text and Boolean data. So numeric data can be an integer, that is a positive or a negative number, a float, that is a decimal number, so for example 3.45, 6.7, and a complex number which has an imaginary part. I think you might have seen the complex numbers in your school days. Then another primary data type is text data, that is some string. Now this string can be a collection of alphabets, special symbols, numbers, but it would be considered as a text data. Then the third type is Boolean, that is any variable which stores either true or false. So let's take a few examples. Suppose I create a variable num1 and store 5 inside it. When I check print, I will check the type of that data. I will not print the data, but I will print the type of the data. So type of num1. So if I run this code, it will tell us that this data is of type integer. So as I was mentioning earlier, we don't need to tell Python that this is an integer. He automatically understands the data being stored is an integer. If I store here 5.8, let's run this again. It gives you a type float. Don't worry about this keyword class. I would be talking about classes and objects through the end of this series, but class is just a category to which this data belongs. So class float, class integer, class boolean, etc. Let's try some complex numbers like 5 plus 3j. So it's a complex number. Let's try something else. Suppose I write data equals hello everyone. So this seems to be a text data. So if I write print type data, it gives us class string. Then let's try some Boolean data as well. So Boolean data looks something like this. I will name it a variable is raining equals to true. Print type is raining. So this will give us class bool. So you might be wondering, what is the use of this Boolean data type? Why can't we just write it as a string true and false? You will understand this after a few lessons when we will be talking about conditional statements. Till then, just remember that we have taught about Boolean data type. So now let's talk about the next category, that is composite data types. These types of data have the ability to store a lot of items together under a single name. For example, I want to store names of 10 students. I can store under one name using these data types. So you don't need to worry about these data types right now. I will be giving you a glimpse of it so that you know what all is there in Python. But I would be creating detailed tutorials on all these data types. So let's get started. suppose I want to store my lucky numbers in a list. So I will write down the variable name, open the square brackets, and write down all my lucky numbers together separated by commas. So this is how a list is created. A sequence of items in the square brackets separated by commas. So if I check the type of this data type, print type lucky numbers. So this will give me a list. Now let's see what's a tuple. I would use the same code, and just instead of the square brackets, I'll put the round brackets. If I check its type now, it will give me a tuple. So tuple is exactly similar to list. It's just that once you have created a tuple, you cannot change it. While in the case of list, once a list is created, you can add, delete, modify its elements using various operations. While in the case of tuple, once it is created, it cannot be changed further. So tuple is immutable and list is mutable. Again, we would be discussing all these operations in detail in our future videos. Right now, you should just know what is a list and what is a tuple. Now let's have a look on the third type, that is a set. I'll again take the same example. What is a set is, it is also a collection of items. It's just that it cannot store duplicate items. Even if you store it, it will not give you any error, but it will not count the repeated numbers. It will just take only one copy of it. So if I print the type of lucky numbers, it will give me a class set. So that's the only difference between list, tuple and sets, that set cannot store the duplicate elements. Then the next category is dictionary. Now what happens in the case of dictionary is that suppose I want to create a list which stores student data. So it stores his name, John. It stores his age, 15. His preferred programming language, that is Python, and his favorite color as blue. So now if I print the type of student data, it will give me a list. But right now this is just 4 pieces of information. Suppose I want to store 10, 50 or 100 pieces of information. Then in this example, it would be difficult for a programmer to remember that the name is being stored at the first position, age is being stored at second, programming language is being stored at third, and so on. So we have dictionaries to make this task easier. That is, we use curly brackets and we use some key with every value. Like we store name as a key, put a colon, and John is the value. Then you store age as the key and 15 is the value. Programming language as the key, Python as the value. Favorite color as the key and blue as the value. And at the end, close it with the curly brackets. So this is known as a dictionary. If I run this, this will give me class dictionary. So in the case of dictionary, there is no position of every item, but there is a key of every item, so that it is easier for a programmer to remember what sort of data he wants from that list. So these are the composite data types: a list, which stores a collection of items, a tuple, which also stores a collection of items, but it is immutable, a set, which stores unique items, and a dictionary, which stores items with the key values. Then let's discuss the last category, that is none. So sometimes what happens, you want to create a variable, but you don't want to store anything inside it. So in that case, you can use this none data type. Suppose I write name equals none. So if I print type of name, it will give me none type. So this is another special category. So at the end, I would also like to introduce another interesting function known as getSizeOf, which you can use to know how much space any variable is utilizing in the computer's memory. But to use this getSizeOf, you need to import a module known as sys, that stands for system. Now you might be wondering, what is this import and what is this module? So you don't need to worry about modules right now, but I would just explain you in a very simple language that what a module is, that it is a piece of code which is already written by the programmers for you to just utilize it. So when you write import sys, that is, now you are connected to the sys module, and all the code which is written there, you can just use it. And from that code, we are using one function known as getSizeOf, whose job is to return the size of any data. So if I write x equals to 42 and print from the system module, use the function getSizeOf to return us the size of x. So it returns that it is taking 28 bytes. Similarly, if you take any string data like hello, let's check how much space this is occupying. So now it is occupying 54 bytes. Now these bytes value can differ from system to system because it depends on Python version, your system architecture, whether it is 32-bit, 64-bit, and many other conditions. So if you get varied values, don't worry, it's just system dependent. So that was all about various data types, how you can check the type, how you can check the size. In our next video, we are going to have a look on various operators which you can perform on these data types. Till then, I would suggest you start practicing because now you are about to enter the lesson 5 of Python 0 to Hero series. Keep practicing. Happy coding.